Gabriela Schaff, thank you so much for taking your time to come and talk to us on this Climate Talks. Climate Talks is a little small initiative that I'm doing that's supported by Social Footprint, an organization that I consult with back in India, helping businesses to understand more on ESG, sustainability, and climate change space. To our viewers, Climate Talks is generally an education and awareness video podcast for people who want to learn from the experts who are working in the field of climate. And today we have beautiful Gabriela Schaff from Get Cool Brands, who has kindly agreed to come and spend some time with us to talk about her experience, her work, and some more knowledge on the climate action. So Gabriela, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, hi everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for having me, Selva. I'm Gabriela. I work in the sustainability field probably around 3 years, but I've been also passionate about, sustainability and the ocean and nature since I was very young. So my passion, it's always there and it has always been there. Happy to have this chat and talk through a lot of things.
Yeah, somewhere in the conversation, I would like to hear more about what motivated you to start Get Cool Brands and introduce us to Get Cool Brands. But yeah, it would be good to share some insights on what actually inspired you to get involved in climate action and sustainability, Gabby.
Look, I'm a person that it's really hard for me to ignore my surroundings. Like I'm very empathic. Like I love helping not just people, but just like everything that is going on in the world. So since I was very young, I was very affected on like news and things like that, and understanding that nature was dying and like forest was gone, and right. Everything always affected me. But because I was working in marketing and had like already a bachelor, I was kind of following a career within communications and marketing. But at the back of my mind, I always wanted to do something involving sustainability. And that's when Ocean Impact Organization appeared in my life and I became their community manager. And that's the first job that I had in sustainability. And that's when I really found my passion. And I understood that didn't matter what I do, I would love to work in sustainability. So time passed and I thought, how can I create a own business that I can step in and just do something for the planet somehow, and for founders as well, because I was working as an accelerator. So I saw founders, sometimes struggling with funding or exposure. So I try to, just unite two things, which is branding and marketing, which I love, and sustainability as well. And then I created Get Cool Brands, which is exactly what the title says. I help people get cool brands and eco-friendly products and things like that. So the website is basically done. We've got more than 10 brands pre-launch already involved with us and sending us products. So it's very exciting to be helping people to get a more sustainable lifestyle through it. So
cool. Gabby, I mean, I completely agree and resonate with you. The more, you care for your surroundings and environment, the more passion that drives you to contribute something towards that. And also like with the economy growing, I'm pretty sure that many people who are aware about sustainability and climate change are looking to connect with products and brands that are socially careful about how they produce. And it's very cool that you started this Get Cool brand to drive that sort of like consumer economy towards being more sustainable and climate oriented. So thank you for that, and I wish all the success for Get Cool brands to scale and help more people to adopt socially and environmentally conscious products. So based on your thoughts and whatever you've come across for the individuals as well as for people, what do you think that there are some potential actions that we all collectively and also as individuals should take to mitigate some of the climate risks?
Look, I think it's very normal for people to think that they're not going to make a difference. I feel like that's the main thing. Individuals have to understand that every single thing they make a difference, it's going to count. And if you tell your friends and then you tell your family and educate them on a way to make a better lifestyle, you can definitely do it. So I feel like it's more of a mindset that everyone in the planet should get into and understand that everyone makes a difference and everyone can be influential on helping the planet. it. So I feel like that's the first step. And then obviously there are like small actions that also people think like, it's okay, like it's only like, a water bottle, or it's only, one plastic ribbon or something that you have. And every time I see like, I don't know, the broccolini plastic ribbon around and I buy it, I'm like, I have to cut it off, because I think if it ends up in the ocean, it can be around a turtle, and that could change a 100-year-old turtle life or something. And I don't know, I just feel like you have to understand that every single action can make a consequence in nature and in the planet. So I believe that this is the first step that people have to know, and the first step that they have to understand that recycling, not just that, but also how they go to work. Like I bought an electric bike, and I can't even imagine how much carbon I'm saving to throw in the atmosphere. And there's so many trips that I actually use my bike instead of going to the beach with my car and things like that. So I feel like we know there are things we can do, but I think the human mindset has to change and have to understand that every single human can do something different. And if you have any tips, just literally you can Google nowadays how to reduce your FUBO card print. You just have to action.
Yeah, thanks, Gabby. I think you made a very valid point there. As individuals, we all totally think that whatever I, as an individual, do is insignificant compared to the global population of more than 7 billion people. As you rightly pointed out, we are kind of contributing towards certain consequences that we are unaware of. And the more and more we are aware of the consequences, the more and more we also will be better in terms of taking care that whatever actions that we take don't leave a bigger impact on the climate. I also strongly believe that everyone in this world has right to access the resources that we currently access, and if we are accessing them excess and not leaving anything for the future generation, I think we are doing some injustice. So in that way, everyone should be aware of where their individual carbon footprint comes from, and then also take some small actions to mitigate the risks of climate change. We spoke about individual, Gabby. You've been in this space and you've worked with several businesses, particularly businesses that are inclined towards sustainability and climate change. But what, according to you, are the role that businesses play in addressing climate change, and how generally businesses can think of becoming more sustainable?
Look, I think businesses have to have a sustainability plan nowadays, and I know that big brands do have it, but I feel like they need to have directions on how to be more sustainable. So definitely find a company or like NetNada or someone that can give you some instructions how to be a better business and a more sustainable business. I feel like there is a little actions that you can start, like let's say my business, our Uber account is only Uber Green. So that's really cool. Like you only use Uber Green. We have all the recycling things within the office. We don't use much printing. Also, even all other companies that I was working with, even the remote life and things like that, not having to go to the office every day. I think that's a new way to think about how we can be more sustainable as business as well. So not necessarily go to the office 5 days a week and everyone has to be there. I feel like this is a really old school mentality that business have, when you have an opportunity to be at home and be obviously still doing what you do, but saving a little bit of this carbon emission that you do every day with your car. And especially Sydney, you commute so much. I think also education to employees. There is always some, employee newsletters or summits and you name it, town halls. I feel like if you're a great leader and if you have a great company, you definitely have a sustainability plan that you can influence as I mentioned, everyone's influenceable. So I feel like if you can, your company is where you spend most of your life basically, and your colleagues. So if everyone is influencing everyone to be a better human and be a more sustainable, lifestyle within the company, I think it's the best way. So, but definitely a sustainability plan within the companies. I feel like every company should have and get some help with it, with specialists that can help this with that.
The key point there is to understand that old school thinking is no longer going to work, and totally spoke the Gen Z language of how things are changing, the norms are changing. Everyone expecting people to come to the office 5 days is not going to be the future. The future is going to be remote, where you eliminate a lot of travel related emissions then and there, and it's economically beneficial as well. And as you rightly pointed out, any small actions have its own consequences and impact, and companies should think of having sustainability plans and start actions with like small steps, if not like going big, but that could lead to collectively bigger actions. Of course, like staff talking to each other, as well as like staffs having that opportunity to lean on to companies that have sustainability plans, so that they also can make a meaningful impact and get educated and contribute. So thanks for sharing that, Gabby. Now I have some interesting questions to ask, particularly about Sydney's Climate Action Week. I know you were an active part of that Climate Action Week and you worked for that. So can you please share some details about what Sydney's Climate Action Week was, and why and how should generally cities on large should be planning for such climate events?
Yeah, no, Climate Action Week was an amazing opportunity, an amazing team to work with. A lot of learnings as being the first Climate Action Week in Australia. We have in New York, we have in London. Basically, Climate Action Week, it's a community-led event. So none of the events we organize besides the opening and closing days, and obviously some of the major flagship events that they call, but everything else is all community-based events. They choose the venue, they choose the time, they choose the audience, they make their own banners, which is really cool, because like you're not saying what people should talk about or what they obviously we had a kind of a team working on all the applications and see if it makes sense to the climate conversation, obviously. But other than that, like we were very welcome to get so many events, more than 100 events around the city, and even online and in-person events. It was so interesting to see the mix of different subjects and things like that within Climate Action Week, and it's so cool when you do a community-led week, because you see how much the community is passionate about and how people want to really want to get involved. And I believe that every single city should do it for the fact that it's such an educational week for, you know, I'm not going to say the normal public, but, you know, we in the climate tech industry, we know a lot that people like literally don't know. And it's not because they are smarter or not than us. It's just because we were not in an educational system exposed to that. And obviously on a day-to-day basis as well. I feel like it's such an important thing, and you can get a broader audience that like had no idea about so many things that these events cover. So it's really cool to see people that had no idea about, like, you know, what happened in Antarctica, or like, you know, and then they go and see the documentary and they were like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening with the planet. And then you're like, yeah, exactly. So it's really cool. I feel like it's so important to major cities to have that. I think the goal for every single Climate Action Week is just try to get as many people as you can in every event. And media coverage as well. We had some difficulties to have media coverage, which I thought it was very surprising, for the fact that like climate crisis has to be addressed, but I think it's something that the media hasn't been too you know, involved with, which they should. Climate Action Week was amazing. I'm sure they're going to do it again next year. It's a bummer that I'm not involved, but it's a great initiative, and the community is amazing in Sydney.
I mean, absolutely agree with whatever you said in terms of like these sort of like weeks. One, giving an opportunity for communities to come together and put an event. The community-led events are like so cool. And then secondly, in terms of like providing that sort of like insights and awareness that people are generally not in a position to know otherwise, potentially that motivates a lot of people to come and also think about that they have to do something in order to avert these sort of like disasters or like anything that happens in the future. So also have that knowledge to be aware of what sort of like policies and infrastructure that they would want around them, which could influence in their decision making when they go on vote next. So absolutely agree with you that all major cities should be doing events like this. And I was so inspired by the Climate Action Week in Sydney. I'm looking forward to anything of such sort here in New Zealand. I'm sure that there were some climate festivals locally, but I would like to see it in a larger scale. Yeah, some learnings from Sydney's Climate Action Week could be of help here as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Gabby. The next question I have is around technology. 30 years back and now, there's been like a huge change in terms of like how technology is like empowering more people to do some cool stuff, not just here but everywhere else and in all industries. So according to you, how do you see technology playing a role in combating climate change?
I think it's absolutely necessary, and I think it's the future. I think, especially with OIO, when I was working with them and seeing so many amazing startups around the world using technology to do things that are so manual. Back in the day, one of my favorite solutions, like all of them are amazing. I don't have a favorite, but I think it's super interesting in this technology matter. We had a company in Canada that they used cameras on boats to count fishing, and how many fish, like obviously species and fishes there are actually fishing in the boat, so they can avoid overfishing. And can you believe that this process is made manually by someone watching cameras?
Wow.
So basically someone looks in the camera and see, okay, there's a barramundi, and then they count how, and I was shocked that this was made manually back in the day. Right. And imagine how much corruption is behind that, people paying, you never know how it's so manual. And then these guys created this camera that actually recognized the fishes and then count how many fishes have been caught in that time. And that was a bloody amazing. And that obviously I cannot mention technology when we're talking about Sydney as well. Hobart, which is one of my favorite founders as well. They're bloody amazing, and they have these amazing solutions to clean hulls of boats that use actually a robot and AI instead of super bad chemicals that we put on hulls on boats nowadays. Right. And that is so bad for the ocean. So I think technology is absolutely necessary, and I feel like they are the future of saving the climate change. Otherwise, us, as I mentioned, our small actions help, yes, and I think you can definitely count, but this major AI and technology is going to be what is going to change about climate crisis for sure.
Right from financing, climate finances, to producers, to supply chain, to logistics, I think technology is going to play a major role in combating climate change in the future. Your example was really spot on in terms of how tedious it would be to actually manually do that job, whereas technology can do it within a flash of time without any mistakes. That's so cool. I'm actually looking forward to what all other cool things that technology has to contribute, particularly in the poorer and vulnerable countries and empowering communities. Thanks for that, Gabby. One other key question I really want to ask you is that what do you think in terms of the role that education play in creating a more sustainable future?
Yeah, again, I think it plays a massive role, and I think it will be I feel like the new generation is a bit more conscious. Sometimes I think they're amazing, I don't want anything plastic, or they, prefer bikes, they don't want cars, things like that. But at the same time, sometimes I see teenagers going to beach parties and leaving everything there, not caring about. So sometimes I'm is it getting better or not? But, I have hope, but I feel like the educational system should definitely, and I think there is obviously a gap in the educational system that in so many matters, in social skills, you name it, there are so many things that could be literally redone in the educational system. But regarding to sustainability, I think that it should be even a subject in every school, and kids should be educated on how they can make a difference in the planet. And I think it's super important for schools to understand that. And I know that there are some schools that touch in that point, but it should be definitely mandatory for every single preschool and even high school, because in high school, I feel like you have the feeling that you know everything and you don't. So I think it's really important to keep that constantly in the educational system. So people actually go out of high school and they know what they're doing regarding to their lifestyle. And they also super influential. They are the kids and teenagers teenagers are the most influential, like to each other, and they're influenceable as well. So like you can influence kids so easily, and I think that's the reason that is so important for them to have this type of education. You name it, not just in schools, but parents as well. Like I'm sure that if I have kids, I'm gonna be very on top of like how they can be more sustainable and things like that, like my mom was.
Agree with you here as well. You don't know things that you don't know, and I think education is the only way to be aware of what's happening around us, and that guides us to make some informed choices and decisions in our life. I also feel this is some personally from my experience in interacting with the next generation children, that they are more aware of climate change as well as like the sustainability component, and they make some informed choices, which is really cool to see. And as much as like the older generation have a responsibility to contribute, the younger generation also have that responsibility to make sure that they take it forward and then implement that into their lifestyle. And education is the only way.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they're the ones that they're gonna suffer. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's why it's so important, because whoever is like drilling oil and things like that, they're gonna be dead by the time that the climate change actually is not, the planet is not even, a place to be. And who is gonna suffer is their grandchildren, is like this new generation. So more than ever, this educational part has to be involved in schools.
Completely agree with that. It's unfortunate that they have to combat and then take up this additional responsibility of being like conscious, and kind of like the struggle that they are going to make or face is higher than what we or like our previous generations had to, particularly because of the climate change. But it is what it is. So finally, like if there is some key pieces of advice that you would want to give to young people who choose to either have a career in climate space or like want to get into the space, what would be that advice?
I think it's like action. Like, we can talk a lot, but it's really hard to put in your day-to-day things that you change in your lifestyle. So like make sure everything you can, because I feel like the mistake that people usually do, it's talk about big companies like, the companies are producing a lot of plastic, the companies emissions in the atmosphere, you name it. Like people make the companies as devils, and they are evil. Although as consumers we have options. We have options, and that's why Get Cool Brands is something that I love so much, because that's what I'm giving people. I'm giving you alternatives to consume products that are more sustainable, and it's still your day-to-day product. You have the option. That's my advice. It's people sometimes are lazy, you're just in your comfort zone, but I think you have the option. Another thing is that I think is a massive advice is to influence your friends and family. I've seen so many friends since I launched Get Cool Brands, like buying the sunscreens that I talk about because they're reef safe, because they surf, they care about the planet, so they're like, whoa, this is really cool, I'm buying it. I'm so happy that and then this friend told to another, his flatmate, and then his flatmate also got the sunscreen. And when I see this like chain going, I see the potential of you talking to people about the alternatives. And I think that's also something that people have to have in mind, that you have the power to help the planet. It's just starting with the actions. And I think the third is follow Get Cool Brands. It'll help you find these alternatives. But and attending climate action weeks, and educating yourself, because I feel like every single human has the capacity to do at least something for the planet, and they are it's our actual home, and if you care about the next generation and ourselves, it's time to do something about it.
Action speaks louder than anything else, as like wise people say. Get in and do something. Absolutely brilliant and to the point advice, Gabby, to young generation people who want to get into the space. As you rightly said, there are like people who continuously blame big companies that produce things, but at the end of the day, we consumers can drive the change by changing the consumption pattern, and that economy actually then drives the producers to be like more conscious of what they produce. So thank you so much, Gabby. Those were like absolutely like fantastic insights that you shared today with us, based on your experience. Is there anything else that you want to share with us that I have not like covered, or like something that comes to your mind today?
I feel like when you said about like people joining the climate tech industry, I feel like it's totally also just going to these events and networking and reaching out to these companies, because I was super welcomed, even though I didn't have any background. Like I did have marketing background, I had companies, but I have never worked in sustainability. But my passion for oceans and like my massive passion of saving the planet and making a difference is what it counted. So if you're looking for a career in climate tech, definitely just go for it. Talk to people, reach out, because we're looking for people that actually care about the planet and want to make a difference, and the rest is magic. So that's my advice.
Awesome, Gabby. It was fantastic talking to you today. On behalf of our audience, I would sincerely want to thank you for the time. I know it's not easy, and you also took up a new job along with being a founder of Get Cool Brands, juggling so many things at times. But in spite of all of those things, your passion drove to come and talk to us today. And it's absolutely a pleasure knowing you as a person and having an opportunity to also be an ambassador along with you for the Community Collective. So I take the joy, our audience, and we sincerely thank you for the time, Gabby, and I hope that we'll connect again and have some more opportunity to talk about your cool things in the future.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Gabby.